Hi everyone, this is Kathy from the Daily Marker, and I want to show you how I created this quick card. It was super fun. I used some memento markers. I love that there's a brush tip and just a plain tip on the other end. The whole idea of today is that you can use any marker. You don't need to have a Copic marker. Now I'm going to be using this bold sentiment from Paper Smooches. I love how they're so black and big and bold, and they cover a lot of surface. So you want to grab a trusty ruler and a Sharpie marker, and I'm just going around my cardstock here to create some lines. Just do whatever lines turn you on, whatever makes you happy. You could do a plaid, you could do checks. This grid paper from Simon Says Stamp is wonderful to line up. If you're doing something symmetrical, you can line up your ruler very easily. Be sure to clean off your ruler in between. You can see I even grabbed my sleeve there, but because the marker it doesn't dry completely before you lift it up and move it, and then you've got smudges. So go ahead and clean that off in between each time you draw that line. Either that or be super duper careful. So I don't care that the center doesn't line up perfectly. Now shop your art stores. You can find some unique things like this, and it's great for art journaling, or you could do circles. It's fun to have things like that on hand. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start coloring all these different sections. It'd be super fun to Zentangle or add doodles to these sections. Last time during the coloring challenge, I did another card similar. It had more Zentangles and doodles in the different sections, and I did my lines differently. But I like to show you there's a different way. You don't have to have stamps. You don't have to have fancy markers. So just go ahead and color this, any particular way. I'm not really thinking too much about what colors I'm using, and it usually just always comes together in the end. So I'm speeding this up to save some time, and I just decided I needed one bold color, so I'm using like a cobalt blue. Once you're finished with that, I'm going to take a really thick, a regular tip Sharpie marker. The other one was a fine tip. And notice I'm cleaning that ruler in between each. And I'm just going over this line again. Now look how this bold black line really makes the colors pop. So it's worth the little bit of time that this takes. And then clean that ruler off again. So I'm ready for my sentiment and just sizing it up, and I was just going to use a regular block, and I'm like, you know what, I better grab my Misty. So that is what I'm going to do. I love to use Simon Says Stamp black ink. It's nice and crisp and bold. It's a dye ink, and it works really well. I cannot find my magnet to my Misty, so I'm going to use some masking paper. So once I line that up, I'm going to stamp it twice onto this cardstock. And in this set, there's a little dot. So I will do UR ... and then I'll finish the sentiment off on the inside of my card. So here's the masking paper. I used that tool just because it was sticking, and I'm just putting a little bit of masking paper. You could use a Post-it note, whatever. So I'm going to stamp that really quick. And this is pretty self-explanatory. While I do that, I'm going to tell you that I'd love to put a pop of color on the inside of the card. I'll be using a yellow on the inside of this, and then I'll stamp the sentiment on top of that. And it just is a nice, fun, bright way when you open up a card. So here's the little dot. I'm just adding that. And then I will be using some glossy accents to adhere it to my cardstock. And I wanted to show you, I die cut a circle, and I'm deciding here, do I want to turn it? How do I want to do it? And I went around and around with this a few times, and I ended up doing it off center. And I used some pop dots on the back of it, of course. And then I used my white gel pen as well. So if you don't like things off center, just put it down regular. Now there was a few lines that I decided I wanted to clean up that I just pointed to there, and then also I'm going to be using a black Memento marker. I use it every single day. So I've already got my pre-cut my cardstock, cleaned up my lines. I went over some of the colors, and there were some smudges on the top of that, and I just used an eraser and it worked great. So now I'm using that Memento marker. You can use a Copic marker, but it does bleed into, if you're coloring something with Copics, it bleeds into. Now I'm pointing the tip towards the inside of my card. That way, if I jump or something, I won't ruin the front of my card. So this always gives your card a nice, finished, complete look. After you cut something out, I really encourage you to do this. So I'm going to set that aside and glue this white circle. It's a larger white circle. I'm just using my glossy accents here. This is a new nozzle that you put on top of your glossy accents, and it doesn't clog as much. It's great. So I'm just giving that a quick little press down, and then I'm going to glue this down on top of that circle. I wanted white behind this. And then a lot of times I'll stick this in a book. The glossy accents dries really fast, and I stick it in a book while I'm doing something else. I've added some foam dots. I'm just finishing this. I want to make sure that it's stable on the back. It doesn't rock or lean towards one side. You can see I just pulled this out of my book, and I'm just laying that down. So before I do that, I'm going to add some white gel pen. But I realized it was rocking there, so I'm just adding some of this foam tape before I add my white accents. And I can decide that once I add those white accents. Now, I always talk about when you use the white gel pen to warm it up on your fingertip. That just, I know it doesn't work for everyone. A lot of people have problems, but it works for me. I mean, 90% of the gel pens have worked for me. But you have to let it, sometimes you get a little like crust on the top, and just scrape that off with your fingernail. And then just let it, you got to give it time to get started. You have to let it pool. So you can try it on scrap paper or on your finger and just let it, you need to give it time to let it pool. And then you can proceed with your gel pen. So I'm going to go around here and add this slowly. I'm giving my pen time to pool as I draw my little faux stitching. Sometimes I go back and forth to make it more opaque, but I do take my time and give it time to let it flow. So I'm going to go add it to certain sections, and then I will be done. So here is the card, and I ended up using purple on the inside, and I put the center circle askew, and then I stamped the inside "You Are," and the inside says "Wonderful." So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. And the Hope you'll watch my other videos. Have a great day. Bye-bye.